Hey guys, welcome back to Main Tech. In today's video, I'm going to be doing kind of a build guide for Dell laptops and workstations. I often get a lot of questions on, hey, what are the best options to choose when speccing out a new machine? How do I know what to choose? What's the pros and cons? So I want to go ahead and do a video on speccing out the perfect Dell workstation for you. So we're just here at Dell.com, and let's go ahead and do a couple different builds here. So let's start off at let's just choose laptops. So we're going to go ahead and click laptop. So the first thing you got to decide is what kind of screen size do you want? Because it's really kind of where we start. So let's go ahead and decide on that. So say a standard laptop is going to be we'll do a 14, 16, and 17-inch laptop. So over here on the side, so we're just Dell.com, we clicked on laptops. Let's go ahead and start at a 14-inch screen size here. So the next thing you have to decide is what kind of class of machine do you want? So on the product line, we have several options here. So I'm going to kind of go over these real quick. So the Dell Latitude is a standard business class laptop. It's going to have more business-centric features such as additional Thunderbolt ports, a little bit better docking flexibility, probably a Kensington lock to lock it down on a desktop. But also it's usually going to come with a little bit better warranty. It's going to be a little bit better build quality. So that's what the Latitude is. Latitude is going to be your standard business class laptop. The Dell Inspiron is going to be tailored more towards your home users, the home user market, or just the general purpose laptop. I personally do not recommend or sell any Inspirons in a business environment. The Vostro is pretty similar to the same as the Inspiron. The Alienware is going to be the gaming-centric laptop. Some people use Alienware for 3D design, CAD, CAM work, rendering, say, video content creation. But I would not recommend the Alienware for that. Mainly, it's built for gaming, guys. One of the things you don't get with an Alienware is the Quadro cards, which is a very crucial thing to consider whenever you're looking at building a laptop for a business use. So, say you're doing stuff like AutoCAD, Autodesk, um, you know, Adobe Premiere Pro, stuff like that, you're going to really want to choose the precision. And the main reason for that is the precision is going to come with GPUs that are ISV certified, which means if you have any issues with the software, Adobe, AutoCAD, SolidWorks are not going to give you any pushback because you have certified hardware in here. The Latitude Rugged is going to be the business class ruggedized laptops. So think something that's going to be taken in and out of cars, be mounted into cars, stuff like that. Dell Chrome Enterprise is going to be Chromebooks here. And then XPS is going to be more of the higher end home or kind of lower end business laptop, ultra thin, ultra light. So let's go ahead and just start at a Latitude because it's going to be a standard business class laptop. So now that we're on here, we can kind of choose all of the different models, and each of these are going to have their pros and cons. But we already know we're in the 14-inch size. So say we don't really care about if it's 2-in-1, if it is going to be able to flip backwards, flip upside down. So let's just go ahead and kind of start here. So we can kind of help thin some of these down. So let's say we want to do a Core i5. So now we're at the 14-inch Latitude Core i5 SKUs. The next thing I look for is the CPU generation. So right now, as of this video, the Intel 13th gen CPUs are the newest. So I personally would not go for a 12th gen. So there's a huge jump in performance from 11th to 12th gen, a little bit of performance from the 12th to 13th gen, but if you're buying a new machine, I would recommend a 13th gen CPU. So I'm just going to kind of scroll through these. Okay, so here we go. So this has a 13th gen CPU. So let's go ahead and customize this thing. So we're just going to go ahead and click on it. And now is kind of where we get into the meat and potatoes here. So we're going to go ahead and kind of do a few different options on this. So the first thing, we have 3 different options on the CPU. We have, looks like the Intel U series, which is DDR4. Then we have the P series, which is more the performance-oriented SKUs with DDR5. So before we choose which CPU we want to land on, let's see which one is the fastest. Because we have an i7 here, we have an i5 here, another i7 here, but what's the difference between these two? So what I do whenever I'm building a computer for a customer is, once I get to this spot, I'm going to go ahead and open up a new tab, and I'm going to go to passmark.com. Passmark.com is a great repository for performance hardware to kind of compare and see where you're at. So you can either go to passmark.com or cpubenchmark.com. It's all the same thing. You can go over here and click on benchmarks, CPU benchmarks, and then let's go ahead and do compare. So you can click compare here. or you can just click on this little scale here. And let's go ahead and compare some CPUs. So we know we have a 1335U CPU here. So let's just go ahead and type in 1335U. So we have the Intel 1335U CPU here. So we know we have that one. Then we have the 1355U, which is an i7. So let's just add this guy, 1355U. And then our third option was a 1370p. So let's go ahead and add a 1370p. 1370p. Oops. 1370. 1370p. So another thing I like to do is if you're replacing a machine for a specific user or yourself, go ahead and compare what CPU you have in your computer. So say you have let's say you have an Intel 10th, let's think of a 10th generation CPU, a 10500 CPU in your laptop. Say you have a 10500T in your laptop currently. And then you just click compare. I always like to kind of compare the new ones versus what you have now. So it's going to order from the first one you added to the last one you added. So say this is the current CPU you have right here. Two things I look for. One is a CPU mark, which is the overall performance. And the second thing is the single thread mark, which is the speed of a single thread on the CPU. Single thread is very beneficial for the everyday tasks because not all tasks are multi-threaded. So I really compare the single and multi-thread benchmarks together. So let's go ahead and look at the three options we have here. So we can see the overall speed of these. So this is the main reason I do it. The i7 1355U is actually slower than the 1335U. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the number of samples. So the 1335U has 45 samples, the 1355U has 16 samples. So a little bit less benchmarks have been submitted for this exact CPU, but this is the average score. So, we can see there is a little bit of a performance difference on the 1335U versus 1355U. If I had to guess, this is probably due to thermals inside of laptops that this i7 comes with. If it's a super thin ultralight machine, it's probably thermal throttling. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So we can see the overall speed here. Now, the 1370p is quite a bit faster, but not a whole lot faster. So this is one thing that I'm really kind of considering is, man, I'm really not getting that much of a difference, especially if this is a CPU that I have in my machine. I can tell this thing is almost 50% faster than what I had before, and the single thread is substantially fast. So I'm going to go ahead and settle on this 1335U. So we're going to go ahead and select 1335U. And then here we choose operating systems, obviously just Windows 11 Pro. You can get Windows 10 Pro if you have an application that doesn't support 11, and you get a free upgrade. Very easy to do. You just install Windows 11, it pulls it straight from the BIOS. The next thing is memory. So this is another thing to really kind of consider and keep an eye on. So we have 8, 16, 32, and 64. So one of the caveats, if you go straight to Dell's website and you don't have a partner such as myself that gets a partner portal, you can't really customize in detail the type of memory that comes in this. So say you want 16 gigs RAM, but this is only coming with one 16 gig stick, so it's going to be operating in single channel mode. So you're leaving a lot of performance on the table just doing this option. So if I'm building this just from their website, I'm really considering, do I want to go with 16 or do I really want both of those sticks? Me personally, I generally do an 8 gig stick, and then I will just add another 8 gig stick after the fact so I get that dual channel mode. But being a Dell partner such as myself, I can customize this straight from Dell's backend and get exactly the type of memory that I want. But for now, let's just go ahead and choose an 8 gigabyte stick of RAM. And then we have the hard drive speeds. So now we have the hard drive. We have 256, 512, and 1 terabyte. Now, whenever you're a Dell partner, you get to choose faster drives. This is a class 35 drive. This is going to be a PCI Gen 3, sometimes a Gen 4. They don't really tell you on this site to choose which drive you want. So we're just going to go ahead and do a 512. And then next we have the display. So a lot of things to kind of keep in mind on the display. This machine, not so much because it didn't have a whole lot of options. Oh, no, it does. It has a couple more options here. So display, the first thing we're looking at, non-touch, touch panel. So what's the difference between these two? Is a screen brightness, 250 nits versus 400 nits. The higher the nit, the higher the brightness of the screen you're going to get. So just kind of comparing these two, this is just going to be the standard non-touch screen 14-inch screen. to where this one is going to get the FHD IR cam, which is a facial recognition with Windows Hello. And it's also going to have the 4G modem built into the screen. So decide if you want that. That's what the WWAN is. Or you get the non-touch 400 nit panel. I always opt for the higher nit displays. It's generally a lot better experience. And then the touch panel, you can choose between they're all 1920 by 1080, so this is all a 1080p screen. But keep in mind the nits here, this one has 300 nits versus 400 nits. So if you want touchscreen, obviously these are your only two choices. Do you want the cellular modem with Windows Hello built in, or do you want the standard one? So there's a little bit of kind of difference here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a non-touch 400 nit panel. So this is where we can choose our mobile broadband if we care about that. Down over here on primary battery, we only get one option, 3-cell 54 watt hour battery. So you don't get to choose anything on that. On power, you do get to choose between a 65 and 100 watt adapter. So I know this battery has something called express charge, so it's going to charge a little bit faster if you have a higher power delivery source. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a 100 watt adapter. On the palm rest, really the only difference between this is if it's going to have the fingerprint reader. Going to go ahead and add a fingerprint reader. Windows Autopilot, so this is where you can send Dell an autopilot image either from your domain controller or from Microsoft Azure, and it can blow down to certain types of applications to the machine. We're not going to go ahead and do that. And then really the last thing on this is the warranty. So basic on-site, Pro Support Next Day, Pro Support Plus. So the main difference between this, the basic on-site, this is going to be a 1 to 3 day turnaround. The Pro Support Next Business Day is going to be a next business day turnaround to get someone on site. And the Pro Support Plus is going to let you keep your drive in the event someone has to replace the drive and it dies. They don't take it back. You get to keep it to destroy any kind of data. You can click Show All Services, so we can see different things down here. So we're going to go ahead and do Pro Support, and we'll just do 3 years. And scrolling down here, we get different options on software. We're not going to worry about that. PDF solutions, antivirus, don't care about that. And yeah, that's really kind of where we're at now. Dell's going to recommend some accessories down here that's going to be compatible with this model. So if you want a docking station, you could choose this docking station here. You could choose this one here. Basic stuff like that. But that's really kind of it on this build. So let's go ahead and spec out a different model. Let's go ahead and go back to computers and accessories, laptops. Let's build a precision workstation. This is going to be for more of the higher end users. Someone who's going to be doing some content creation, some AutoCAD, some SolidWorks stuff like that. So let's go ahead and choose a 16-inch machine here. Let's see what options we get here. We're going to roll down through this pretty fast. We know we're going to want to do an i7 in this build because they're going a little bit faster cores. We care about a 13th gen CPU, and that really only leaves us with a 7680 workstation. So let's go ahead and customize this guy. So we don't really get any options on here. So I'm actually not going to customize this one. Let's look at a couple different options because I like to compare CPUs and everything. Let's take a look at this 17-inch screen and see if it gives us any CPU options. It doesn't either. It's one thing frustrating about Dell's their just straight website is you don't really have a lot of customization features, unlike the partner portal. Let's go ahead and just try this guy again. Let's see what options we get here. Yeah, okay, so we get several more options. So let's go ahead and start here. Precision 5680. So processor 13600H. Let's go back to Passmark. Let's start over again, and let's just kind of run through this from scratch again, because I always like to compare these and talk through them. So we're at a 13600H. So we just type in 13600H, like that. Generally, Passmark's always going to have the CPUs in here. 13700H, 13700H, and then what do we got? 13800 and 13900. Okay, so 13800H, 13900H. So the main differences between these is i5, less cores, i7, more cores, i9, the most cores. The main difference between these two i7s are going to be clock speed. Let's go ahead and compare. And the nice thing about Passmark is it tells you. So we see this. So we see this i7, just one number difference. What's the difference? Well, it's going to be the base clock and the turbo speed. So as we can see, this is overall performance on all four of these CPUs. Again, let's say you have an 11900, say you have an 11900H in your current workstation. So we can kind of compare these. So if you have 11900H, you can kind of see your speed is about this 21,000 here. So any one of these options are going to be an upgrade. You're going to see the most improvement from the 13900H. But regardless, so let's kind of compare these four options that Dell gives us on this workstation. Go ahead and get rid of this i9 here. So these are the overall scores. Higher the better. One thing we're going to really look on is the single core speed, because if you're doing things in AutoCAD and SolidWorks, you're going to really benefit from that single core speed overall. So we got 39, 37, 32, 4000. So honestly, I'm either going to choose the 3600H or the 3900H, because we don't really get a whole lot of performance difference between these, but we get a lot of single thread results out of this. Again, probably just due to overheating. So let's go ahead and build a 13900H. So go back here, choose this guy. And then Windows 11 Pro, scroll down, don't care about that, don't care about that. Graphics card. So here's the next big piece. What do you need on your computer? This is really going to depend on what you're building it for. So say you care about AutoCAD. So we know with AutoCAD, you're definitely going to need a dedicated GPU. Same way with SolidWorks. So what's the difference between all these guys other than memory? Because we just see there's just a number here, but we have more memory here. So again, let's go ahead and go to Passmark and benchmarks, and then video card benchmarks. There's lots of other sites you can use. You can use CPU Geek. You can use 3D Mark's benchmark tool. There's a lot of online repositories. I just like Passmark. It's easy to get around. Click on compare, and let's check these GPUs out. So we have a 1000, 2000, 3500. So let's say 1000 laptop, a 2000, 8 gigabyte. Make sure this is the 8 gig model. A 2000, 8 gig it is. Make sure this didn't have an ADA. A 2000, did it? Nope. Then we had a 3500 with 12 gigs, so a 3500. Let's see if this is in here. This is a new card, so this one may not be in here. RTX A, autocorrect, RTX A35. So this one is not in here. So we're going to go ahead and just choose the A3000 12 gigabyte model, because it's going to be a fairly close one. Then we're just going to add the 4000 and 5000. So a 4000 and then a 5000. Make sure you choose laptop GPU if it's laptop SKU. So here we have overall performance speeds on all of these. We can see there's quite a bit of jump here. Now this is really what it's going to depend on exactly what you're doing. So if you're doing a lot of compilations in AutoCAD or SolidWorks, you're going to really benefit from having some more memory. So that's just one thing to consider, but we can kind of see there's quite a bit of a even jump between the 1, 2, 3, and 4000. Not a whole lot of difference on the 5000. The big difference in the 5000 is the kind of the raw tensor core throughput you get. But we just know we're not doing anything too insane, so we're just going to go ahead and land on probably the 3500. Let's see the difference in that. So the A2000 is that, but $300 difference, $700 difference. Yeah, we're just going to stay with the A2000. Another good resource to go is Puget Systems. They have a good resource on exactly what they recommend. Now, they also build computers, so this is another option you could do is Puget Systems. You could also go to Box, boxx.com. They do custom-built engineering workstations, too. This is not going anywhere fast, so I'm just going to leave that there. So Puget Systems. I like to look at solutions, and let's go to, say, since we're doing design, let's go ahead and look at CAD, and let's just do AutoCAD, see what AutoCAD does. But once you go here, you can click on hardware recommendations up here, and you can kind of read their articles on what they recommend. Do you care about a Xeon? Do you care about overclock systems, stuff like this? What best GPU? And they just give a lot of information on here, so just another resource to keep in mind. So A2000, we're going to go and do that now. We see we have an error here. We have to have a 100-watt adapter, so you can click on this link, and you can just choose like a 165 adapter here. So let's just scroll up, make sure we don't have any other errors. So, okay, we got that selected. Systems Management vPro. If your company has a management system to manage machines, this may be something beneficial for you, or beneficial for them, is to decide if they want to have vPro management enabled, or if it even comes with the vPro compatibility, so you can manage this machine out of box, so you can configure the BIOS remotely. We're just going to go ahead and leave this on. Display. So we have two different options here. We have a 16-inch FHD plus display, which is going to be, it's a little bit higher than 1080p. It's just really the aspect ratio. So the 1920 by 1200, so it's a little bit wider of a screen than 1080. On this one is a 16-inch OLED panel. So with OLED, you're going to have a lot better image on the machine, but it's going to sacrifice a lot of battery life. But it's also going to be a lot more accurate. So that's one thing to consider. Now, if you have one of these machines, you're probably not doing a lot of work from the screen. You're probably going to have it docked, but you decide what you want. Again, main thing, I look at resolution, refresh rate, and nits. So this one's 500 nits, this one's 400 nits. I'm just going to go ahead and save this at this screen here. So on memory, we get to choose what kind of memory we have. Looks like the CPU requires 64 gigs on it. So dual channel, go ahead and just select that. Hard drive. So this is what I was speaking on earlier. So all these are class 40. So these are going to be the newer Gen 4 SSDs. Always, our minimum recommendations on a standard workstation is going to be an i5, 16 gigs of RAM, and a 512 gig SSD on an engineering workstation. Usually it's a little bit more. Usually it's an i7, 32 gig of RAM, and a 1 terabyte SSD. Generally, once you get out of the 256 and the 512 SSDs and you get to the 1 terabyte and up, you get a little bit better performance. So we're just going to go ahead and choose 1 terabyte SSD here. And we don't care about additional storage or RAID. Don't care about any of these back covers. Don't really have any options on here. We've already chose that. And yeah, we're kind of back to where we were. We can choose the warranty, stuff like that. So that's how you're going to build a laptop on Dell's website. So let's go ahead and do a couple desktops real quick. Going to go to computers and accessories, desktops. Let's go ahead and build an Optiplex and a Precision again. Optiplex in the Dell workstation the Optiplex line for Dell is going to be more tailored towards business class. Inspiron is going to be more tailored towards a home user class. So let's go ahead and do an Optiplex. Let's go ahead and do a tower. So let's go ahead and start at this Optiplex tower and see if it's going to let us customize it. So nope, we don't get really any customization options on this one. This is another frustrating thing. You just kind of got to click around and find what you can customize on Dell's site. It is not a very good experience, to be honest, if you're wanting to customize a machine here. You generally just got to click through them. So here's one that we can kind of customize a little bit. So i5, i7, I've already showed you how to kind of compare these. Yeah, boy, not a whole lot of options on this. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of skip through this stuff. We don't really care about this. So let's go ahead and do a Precision because we get a lot more customization options on this one. So Precision, fixed workstation. Let's go ahead and try to customize this 3660 tower. Nope, none on there. Again, very annoying if you want to try to customize a machine. So here we go. We found a SKU that you can customize here. So again, we have lots of options here. Starting from a 12th gen all the way to a 13th generation CPU. So I've already kind of showed you how to kind of compare your current CPU or the differences between all these CPUs on Passmark. So I'm not going to go over that again. I'm just going to go down here and choose some options and see. So say we chose this one. It says it requires this chassis options. You click on that. Then usually it'll have a little green check mark here that will tell you which one is going to be compatible. So that one is good. We're out of warning state now. So this one has another vPro error. So we're just going to go ahead and deselect that one. Just kind of get us out of error state. So we're there now. Memory. So we have 8, 16, 16, 16. So this is probably going to range from DDR5 with or without ECC. Since we're going with an Intel CPU, since we're going with a non-Xeon CPU, I'm not too concerned with ECC. DDR5 is already much better at error correction, even without the ECC, than DDR4 was. It's actually about the equivalent of DDR4 with ECC versus DDR5 without. It still has a better ECC correction rate, or very, very similar. But again, let's go ahead and kind of look through here. Again, one thing we want to really try to stay away from is a single channel mode. So we can see 16 gigs here, or for the same price, you can get two 8 gig sticks. So we're definitely going to choose that for better performance. Going down here to graphics cards. So this is a good example. Graphics cards. If you are not doing any kind of video editing or content creation, you probably don't really need a graphics card unless you're going to be connecting multiple monitors to your machine. The more monitors you connect to your machine without a dedicated GPU, the more clock cycles it's going to take from your CPU, and it's also going to use up a little bit more memory. So if, say you're going to have 2 or 3 monitors connected, I would really recommend a small GPU. If you're going to be doing anything more, like some video editing or content creation or even a little bit of design work, you just want to kind of go up this stack. But hey, what's the difference between this T400, T100, A2000, stuff like that? Again, you can go over to Passmark and kind of compare them and see what makes sense for you. If you're just going to be doing multiple monitors, and you want to get a little bit more performance out of the CPU, I would choose something with at least 4 gigs of RAM. Now, if you have 2 ultra-wide 1440 or 4K monitors, you're going to really want something with at least 8 gigs of RAM. So let's go ahead and just do this T1000 with 8 gigs of RAM. Going down here to storage configuration, we can kind of choose how we're going to want the base storage configuration. If you're just doing OneDrive, this doesn't really matter. We're going to go ahead and choose what SSD we want. So does this one? Okay, this one does. So this one has a class 35. This also has a class 40. So class 40 is going to be a little bit faster than a class 35. You want to stay away from HDDs. You do not want a spinning disk in your computer anymore. I do not know why they offer this. We're just going to go ahead and do a 1 terabyte Gen 4 PCI SSD, because we know that is going to be a Generation 4 drive and it's going to be faster than a Generation 2 drive. Skip through all this stuff. We don't care. Network card. You can get some dedicated NICs in here. It doesn't really do a good job of explaining what the difference is. So this would just be a secondary NIC. So this isn't adding anything like 10 gig or fiber. So we're just not going to worry about that. Wireless. I like to opt for wireless and Bluetooth in your machine. Even if you don't think you need it, in the event you have to move a desk or you have to relocate someone, think during COVID, it is just a nice benefit to have wireless built into your computer than having to deal with dongles. So I'm going to go and just choose this cheap wireless card with Bluetooth. Some come with Bluetooth, some come without, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Not going to worry about Thunderbolt or any optional things here. Say you need an optional serial port, you could just choose that. It's just going to screw into the back of the. It's just going to screw into the back of the chassis. Optical drive systems management, keyboard, nothing special here. Don't care about any of this. Dust protection, whatever, don't care. And that's probably going to be about it. And then we get to choose warranties and all that stuff too. So yeah, and then we get to choose some more accessories. If we wanted to add some more things, we could, but we don't really care about that. So yeah, I think that is it for this video. Kind of went over how to build a Dell laptop, a desktop, and then more of the precision line of workstations have a little bit more options. So very beneficial to look at these and compare the performance, the pros, the cons of each option. So as always, don't forget to like the video, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Stay tuned for the 500 subscriber giveaway. And yeah, until the next one, have a great day.